Alright, here's the next video I'm going to show you guys is the project box. So as you can tell, I got the wires running through the tube here, and then I have a few wires running through here, and that runs towards the front, and then this wire just comes from this motor right here. So this is kind of how the project box is set up for me. There are four mounting points here, and then these holes are just cleared out so that it'll give room for these bolts. And I need this to sit as flush as possible, so I needed to add some space for these bolts to pass through here, and then I can mount it to these to the mounting points here. So that's the other 4 holes over here. And then I put a GoPro sticker here because behind it is actually just a hole drilled out for the USB port. So I can, once I have this mounted, I don't really need to take it apart again. I can just plug in here with the USB interface and reprogram it. But I took it apart this time just to show you guys kind of how this looks and how it works. So now that all my wires are running into this location, I'm just going to feed it through the bottom. Alright, so you see I have some wires here running through the hole that I drilled out at the bottom. I drilled some extra holes just to let these the heads kind of pass through so this can sit further back and this is not obstructing it. I have the spacers mounted on the inside here before I add the board. I have 3 right now, so I'll just start with that. But this is where the board's going to be mounted, so let me put the board in right now. Alright, so before I install this main board here, one thing I wanted to point out was these pins on this side. Now these pins were typically bent outward, but what I've done is I've bent them upwards to kind of be similar like this. It saves me more space along the side of this board, and that's how I'm able to get a thinner project box. You can see how thin the project box is. This fits perfectly inside here. But if these pins were facing the other direction, I'd run out of space as soon as I tried to connect something. So I went ahead and I bent the pins upwards. Now, I don't recommend this because, you know, you never know if you're not careful, but I did it very slowly. I used some needle nose pliers to support it while I bent it. So I took great care in doing this, but it did save me a lot of space, and that's how I'm able to fit it into this project box. So let me go ahead and install this right now. Alright, so there you go. The main board is inside here. I don't know if you could tell, but on the side there's the USB here, and then I drilled a little hole in the side of the box. That's kind of covered by this GoPro sticker, but there's access to the USB through this hole. But that's the board sitting on top of the spacers. So remember, the box goes on first, then the spacers, and then the board. And to get this to sit flush, I had to drill those series of holes. But here's all my cables here. I have just enough to get it to the board. So let me get those plugged in. And what you'll notice is I've marked some of my jumpers here. There's 2 dots on here, and it's facing upright. This one has 3 dots here. I know which direction this faces. So I'm using my own technique to remember where these plug in, but it's very important that you plug them in the right place. If you read the back of this board here, you'll see which is your pitch roll and your yaw. It'll tell you which motor goes where. Down here is your joystick. And then there's another axis that gets plugged in here with the other board. Actually, this one right here will plug in, and I'll get that on in a sec. So there's some instructions online, and let me get mine plugged in and I'll show you what's next. All right, there you go. There's the project box. You see the cutout for the battery cable here, and then these wires just kind of get stuffed into the box before I close it up. And one thing to note about these battery cables, let me show you what I did here. Now, possibly I could have just drilled a hole through the top and ran the wires through, but I would have to drill a very big hole to get this connector through. Instead, what I did was I just cut a hole off to the side here, right where the cover goes on. And what that does is I've made a hole just tight enough to pinch the cable in place. And the reason why I pinch the cable in place is when you're hooking up the battery to this guy, if for some reason you yank it or you drop the battery, it could rip the solder here, maybe even damage your board. So I'm pinching this cable when I put the project box on. So as this cable gets pulled, it's actually pulling off of the case, and there's not as much pressure on these connectors right here. So that's why I did it right at the edge instead of drilling something through the top. So let me put the cover back on, and then we're ready to go. And there you have it. The box is totally sealed up. I have access to my power cable here for my battery. And again, the USB is behind this sticker. So once you have this set up, you never have to access this box ever again. It's just nice and closed up, and it's done. And keeps all the wires nice and neat inside. So that's kind of how I put the wires into the box and how I mount the box to the back of this gimbal.